How important is branding for your business?
For me, branding, it basically means connecting, right? It's connecting to the consumer and having them understand what our story is.
And what are some of the techniques that you use for your brand?
Be passionate about what you're doing, believe in what you're doing, perseverance.
And would you say a broker can survive without personal branding?
And doing it over and over again, the results end up being there, but it's not instantaneous. It's definitely takes time.
It's a long road. It takes a lot of time, commitment, investing in this, but at the end, it's going to pay off.
This video is sponsored by Cleaner Offices. Stay compliant, mitigate risks, elevate property value. Quebec's trusted partner for all interior and exterior cleaning needs.
So, do you guys want to introduce yourself a little bit for those who don't know what you do? Say your business name. Let's start with Zvi.
Sure, we'll start with me. My name is Signage Shapiro, and I'm the owner of Nulook Office Solutions. We're a contract office furniture dealer located in Montreal.
Nice.
Hi, everyone. My name is Luciano, and I'm the regional president for CDNGLOBAL. And we're a corporate and commercial real estate firm based across Canada, but I run the Quebec operations for the organization.
My name is Fabio Zeppilli. I'm the co-founder of Bad Monkey Popcorn, and we sell our products all across North America.
Great. And it's a great mix. I'm happy to have all of you back on the
Thank
show.
you.
So I'm excited. Let's talk about branding. How important is branding for your business, or whoever wants to go first?
Maybe I'll start. So, in my world, when I'm dealing directly with the consumer, for me, branding, it basically means connecting, right? It's connecting to the consumer and having them understand what our story is. Because for me, for example, I sell my product in a grocery store, right? So when someone's walking through a grocery store, they only have a finite amount of time to make a decision. So they need a reason to choose my product among the many other options. And so if I have a story that they can connect to, it gives them one more reason to pick up my product versus something else. So for me, branding is not like it's not like a buzzword. It's a vital part of my business.
Yeah. So can somebody survive without branding in your industry?
In the CPG consumer product good industry, it's impossible. Absolutely impossible. If I was selling like an unbranded commodity, let's say, I don't know, a screw or a nail or something like that, maybe okay if I had good pricing and things like that. But in my world, it's you live or die by your brand.
And would you say that personal branding is more important than the business, or do we have to work both of them simultaneously?
Yeah, I think now it's like trendy to be kind of like you're almost like front running your business by being like the famous person who happens to sell, you name it, whatever it is. And that's a business model that some people have, done pretty well. But I think if you want longevity in the business, I think it's important that your product and your brand and your company speak for itself with or without you. Okay. So I don't want a situation where, I step away from the business or something happens to me or whatever, and then suddenly, my company's not as valuable because I'm not there. So I want something to live past me.
Makes sense. And even if you want to sell as well, that's a good way to...
for sure. I mean, the value of my company will be discounted if I'm not there, if I'm like literally the face of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Luciano.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that branding is important, especially if we look at the corporate real estate space. The brands that we're up against are brands that are international. They're well-funded companies across the globe. And so we have to give a reason for people to call us. Similar to consumer products, really, if I think about it, is the consumer has to say to themselves, I'm going with this business and I believe I stand behind this brand. So I think about what we're building with CDNGLOBAL here in across Canada is really letting people know that you're dealing with trusted advisors, you're dealing with people that are experienced advisors. And that's a message that has to be conveyed. And this is what we do, try to do every single day in terms of our branding.
And would you say a broker can survive without personal branding? I know there's the branding of CDNGLOBAL, but do they need also to put effort into developing their own brand?
Absolutely. I think that at the end of the day, people want to do business with people. Yeah. And even in consumer products, by the way, the brand has to speak to you. And people see brands and consumers see brands as people. And I think that, so as a broker, as a real estate broker, my advice would be to, yes, help, build your brand. And if you're part of an agency, then build your brand within that agency. But you need to be able to convey those messages. So.
And Zvi.
Our brand has been since the start of Nulook, which was back in 2000. was really, you have my industry, you have a choice. You can either call it the brand of the manufacturer that you're going to represent, vis-a-vis, let's say, a Steelcase, a Knoll, a Technion, that some dealers go behind that, and that's the flag that they go with. My world, I preferred to choose to go with the name Nulook and promote the company itself, because pretty much everybody makes the same type of furniture. When you're buying like a top product, they all have warranties, they all have it. But who are you actually buying it from? Who are the people that are actually servicing it? And I think it's a longer road going that way, like anything else, starting off with, the three of us here. Starting off with with the brand, your name. The company is a relatively new company that you started with. Yeah. And Nulook being a new company 24 years ago, but pushing that forward, being synonymous with good service, great quality, and excellent warranties from the people that. So it's a long road, but I think it's a very healthy road if you do the voyage correctly and you stick by what you're saying and what your mission statement is.
Yeah. Definitely. Like you said, it's a long road. It takes a lot of time, commitment, investing in this. But at the end, it's going to pay off.
It's every transaction repeating itself and making sure that transaction is as stellar as you're only as good as your last. Our philosophy has always been you're only as good as your last transaction.
And what are some of the techniques that you use for your brand?
From the get-go, I was involved with networking. And physical networking. We're a founder of a group called BNI when we had a chapter that was called the WIT chapter, the West Island Team chapter. And I was very much involved with that for 15 years at the start of the business. I think I was involved actually even just before that. And it was like every week going out there and practice speaking to a group and just preaching what you're saying and what you're doing, meeting new people. And really it was boots on the ground. And I swear by that. I think that's really, I get there's a lot of tech these days, a lot of ways, the podcasts are great, different things of being out there and seeing, the way to get out. But I still think, what? That handshake and that thing where you're able to go out and meet the people and, see their space and live interaction is worth it. But it's a long road.
What about today? Because you said 15 years, like a while back, but what about now?
I don't do as much. I do a different form of networking. I'll go to the Chamber of Commerce. I'll be involved in some other charities, different ways to get things out there. But I'm still in touch with a lot of people I met hundreds of people over those 15 years and they know my company. They know my name and they call us, Our cold calling now, we don't have to do as much because we've been fortunate that, again, through the personal branding and everything, it's kind of worked the wheel. I've known Luciano for many years, and we don't even know how many years we've known each other from going back over 20. I met Jean-Marc and some other people. I'm going, how long do we know each other? We know each other a long time, and your name came up and it just starts building from that.
It's a small circle.
I think you highlighted something interesting. There's building a brand and then there's maintaining a brand, right? So like, for example, I'll just use myself for example, but to your point, I think it's a great point you made where it's like, it really is face-to-face. Face-to-face interactions are largely like underrated, I think, especially today, right? So for us, we wanted people to experience our popcorn. So we would literally go, my brother and I, into the stores and do sampling live, right?
Exactly.
And see people's reactions. Hey, did they like the popcorn? Did they not like it? So they learned who we were. And now that we're like in 25,000 locations, we can't be in every store.
Right.
So we have our brand kind of set up, if you will, and we're just trying to maintain it. Like you said, every interaction, your last interaction has to be, good because you're only as good as your last interaction, right? So there's the building aspect and then there's the maintenance, and those are two separate things.
I find it fascinating though in terms of consumer brands, because I believe that every brand speaks for itself and every brand is kind of like has its own persona. And, and I'm interested to know what your brand says. Like what emotion does it evoke?
So real quick, like when we first started the company, we had this kind of magic trilogy in our head. And actually, to your branding point, we said to ourselves, let's inspire ourselves from other companies that have done great. So the trilogy is interesting. It's the price point of Walmart, because Walmart is always known for something that's an affordable place for the average people to go to. The second part was the quality of Starbucks. You see, if I say you use the word Starbucks, you go, oh, high quality stuff.
Right.
So they did a really good job at that branding. And then the third aspect of the trilogy was the kind of energy and the spirit of Red Bull. So you see what I'm saying? Like, you just by keywords, you can already know that you understand what I'm saying.
Right, yeah.
And so for us, like our brand, if you will, if you take all those three together, it's like fun, fresh, family. That's kind of the F's of our business, So every product we have kind of takes those three aspects, but instills some like fun in it. It's always fresh, and it's a family business, and that's kind of what we've been known for like the last decade now.
But do you think, with like you were saying before, those sample tastings?
Sure.
That have to be a lot of sample tastings, because how else are they going to react to your brand? The packaging, somebody says something, someone says, "Hey, it's really good, you should try it." But unless you actually, like, I'm thinking like going into Costco where the person has the popcorn or they have the different things, and you try it, you turn it and go, "Oh, that's actually."
Oh, we had.
Then you go back in the carriage. Where do I find this on the shelf?
We had some folks literally spit out the popcorn into their hand at first because it was not good, to be honest with you, when we first started.
Really?
Yeah, we had
Those are competitors.
Yeah.
You have to be there for that reaction.
No, I'll be honest with you.
Change the recipe.
But that was Orville Redding.
They ate something else. But
it wasn't us.
But I'm honest with it. To be honest with you, we started off with like a product that like now is like light years from where we were. But we listened to folks and we adapted as we went along. And I'm sure in your businesses too, sometimes you make a move and then you're like, maybe that wasn't so great. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to pivot. And especially in branding, it's not like you can set out and be like, I'm going to be known for X and it's never going to change. Things happen along the way that you need to adapt. It's like the Mike Tyson quote where it's like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. It's kind of along those lines, right? So you have an idea of what you want to do, and then it kind of molds over the years.
Yeah. And sometimes you might even think that this is what you're known for, and then you speak with the consumer and you realize, no, they see you differently than how you see yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might be known for something you don't want to be known for. And then
There's that too.
Change that up, right?
It's funny you say, because part of my thing when I was doing the networking, and it would drive me crazy. I hate office supplies, and they'd introduce me. He's the guy that sells office supplies, office furniture.
Yeah. See, that's it.
Are they not listening?
Yeah.
I've done this 600 times.
Yeah, but
how does this person still?
That's a brilliant point, though. I love that you said that, because that differential between those two words is huge. It's huge. It's like boring to
the pen versus a table.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's great.
And you go, what are you doing? Like, am I missing the message? Am I not, explaining it properly? That's kind of like coming back to get that input. How did you do? How does the presentation? Does it make sense?
And Luciano, you mentioned that maybe you are as well up against large players with big pockets, right? Deep pockets. And what you do, so it's like if you don't have that like tight kind of understanding of your brand, it's like it's tough to compete against that, right? Some folks will be with you because they know you stand for quality, you stand for other things that maybe the bigger guys can't provide.
That's exactly it. And I think that when you are in a situation where you feel like you're the underdog, I think it's your I always see those things as an opportunity, right?
Of course.
So what is your opportunity to pivot? What's your opportunity to, I always look at these big organizations where it's a big boat, and and it's a big boat to steer it into harbor. It needs tugboats, right, to get it properly. But a smaller boat can maneuver. And I think that's what I enjoy about what we're doing, is because we can do things like, we started something, and Cathy and I have connected on this regarding Signage Saturday. So what is Signage Saturday? Signage Saturday was an idea of promoting our listings, promoting our clients' spaces, and letting the world know that these spaces were available. And so basically what we ended up doing was ending up owning a day and a moment at Signage Saturday, where that on Saturday something's going to come from me or from my office that says there's a space available. And it's become a thing now. And it's almost like I can't go without a Saturday without introducing that, because, and that's something that other brands, they can't necessarily do that. Why? Because they're too big, and covering everybody's listings and giving them front and center, it's not, they just can't do it. I know, I've been there. So.
Yeah, of course.
And you're doing more things about the videos now that you're doing.
Yeah, so we started these reels where I wanted to promote our local market. So we started in Montreal, and our intention is to roll this across the country. But in Montreal, what we're doing is we're doing two things. 3 things you didn't know about a specific building or a specific area of the city, and we're trying to highlight that. And we're starting to get some traction on that, because people are interested in just hearing some of these facts. I see people at, when I'm walking on the street downtown, they're saying, 3 things you didn't know about Luciano or whatever. So I kind of chuckle,
Sure.
And it's cute, but it's like, what? We're making a space for ourselves. And in doing those 3 things videos, then we started filming our listings and showing spaces. So not just the static that we've been used to. See, commercial real estate in the past has been kind of behind the times when it comes to branding and marketing. And now I would say that we've brought in this new element of like showing spaces, but showing it in bites, 45 seconds, because people's attention span is not.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't have time
Like
to
30
watch.
seconds, 45.
45 seconds, I'm pushing it.
Yeah,
you
you
know?
are. I think it was 30. I think it's 30.
And I'm told with the person that's helping me film these things, she tells me to cut my words because I'm too wordy. So, okay, so, you know. But so we started that. And then in that, by accident, we fell on someone who was a local Montreal entrepreneur that is what I would consider an unsung hero, an unsung entrepreneur, where you know who he is, you know his his business, and you kind of seen him, but you don't really understand, you know, his story. And then just telling those stories. And I have to say that people are appreciating that, because we were talking about this before the podcast here. And you know, you were saying that there's a lot of ups and downs when you're in the business, and entrepreneurs have some great stories to tell. And of course, we always see the good.
Of course, the highlight reel.
The highlight reel, right?
That's
But
it,
there's
right?
the bad, there's the bad, and there's the ugly.
Oh, yeah.
There's the bad and there's the ugly. And so I think in getting those stories out there now, it's helping us kind of position ourselves as we are a Montreal brand. We believe in our local communities wherever we are. So in this case, it's Montreal. But as my partners are going to roll this out across the country, the idea is, no, we're committed to our communities, and we're telling the stories of our communities. So,
Well, I applaud you for honestly doing like what sounds like storytelling in, I don't want to say an archaic industry, but it's an old industry, right? That hasn't been changed in a long time, right? And sometimes that's what it is, right? It's taking something old and making it new. You know, for example, myself, like I sell popcorn. I mean, popcorn's been around for like 150 years, right? So my brother and I, we always say we didn't make like a new wheel. We just made a cooler wheel. That's it,
Right.
you know? And so
Made
that's
popcorn sexy.
Yeah, that's it. Really, yeah.
make popcorn sexy again.
That's it.
Can we say that?
But I think that rolls right into the whole branding,
Yeah,
topic, right? I mean, that's what it is.
But to continue what you just said, taking something old and then making it new. Sometimes you don't have to reinvent, or thinking that you have to invent this new app or something like that in order to make money today.
But that's the thing. I
Yeah.
do a lot of conferences where I speak to young entrepreneurs who are not necessarily young in terms of like their age, but young in terms of their experience, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how do I get started? Like, what can I do? I don't know the idea I could start with. And I always say, like, don't wait for that magical app idea. You know, think of something that you like, something that you
Something
know,
you're passionate about.
something you're passionate about, and say, hey, can I put a little twist on it? You know, that's all you need. And then maybe along the way you'll pivot and you'll do something completely different. But at least you started that process forward, you know? And so I think there's a lot of like paralysis by analysis happening generally among a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. For example, in our industry, we're in the commercial and industrial cleaning. It's the same thing. I used to be a property manager for commercial. And then I realized me calling all these vendors that they wouldn't answer your call, they would not show up. Like I had a lot of issues. So I said, you know what? What if we try making it better? And now we have it's like a boring industry, and then you put systems on it, innovation, and then now a bit of a personal, you know, zest on it. And then there it is. Yeah, it doesn't have to be glamour.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of the most profitable companies I know don't really do sexy things. It's like, you're like, how does they make money doing that? But they do, right? Because they do it differently. So,
Exactly. But what about commitment? Yes, we can start doing the videos. Yes, we can put ourselves out there, networking. We sign up for it, but we don't go. How do you guys maintain consistency?
Commitment, that is huge. That's like getting up and brushing your teeth. You got to be, if you're not committed to what you're doing, you're not going to have success at it. I mean, people think it's easy. Part of the hardest thing is the commitment part of, you know, good days, bad days, the bad days, getting up and going back in and going back into the battle and doing it over and over again. The results end up being there, but it's not instantaneous. It's definitely takes time.
It's a grind. And I mean, I applaud what you're doing in a business that I see as very competitive. I mean, I know that being on this side where we're kind of first, you know, we're the first
responders.
we're the first
responders on that one.
Thank you for the word, but that's exactly it.
That's
So when we're finding, you know, office space, there are tons of people that do what Zvi does. But the fact that Zvi knows that he is on the list of the first responders to be that person, the go-to person, because really it's a matter of trust, right?
Yeah.
And it's knowing that if I call him, he will answer the phone.
Yeah.
And there's many people out there, unfortunately today, when you call them, they're not answering the phone. Or it takes them some time, and there's always, always something there. But I think that's, that commitment.
Just a quick story where we ended up working with one of the largest companies in Canada because I was worried about a job that I was getting in. They were testing me out, and the gentleman, the project manager said, okay, he goes, I want to do this project. I'll do the project, but I get to work with who I want to work with on it. I wasn't a vendor. I think he said, but he was trying to work to get me in front of the client. And they said, look, we got to get this done. Choose whoever you can trust to do the job. So he gave me a phone call, and the guy says, can you do a job in Washington, D.C.? And I'm like, sure. I go, yeah, I can do it, this and that. And anyways, fast track. It was like I got into my car and I drove to Washington.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't know. I was trying to find people, nobody calling back, trying to find a mover. There's decommissioning a move, this and that. And it became like, it went from, okay, I thought I had a month. I get off a call and they turn around and they go, okay, you have till the end of the month. So it was last year, exactly last year. And they go, you have till the end of the month. And I go, okay, I have till the end of March. He goes, no, till the end of February. But if you really need, you have March 1st. It's like February 22nd.
And it's not even a leap year.
It's not. I get off the phone. I was up north of my cottage. I'm trying to call movers, right? No one's calling me back.
Right.
It's Saturday, Sunday. Nobody's calling me back. On Monday, I speak to a guy and he says, okay, call this guy. I go, where are you located? He goes, I'm in Texas. I go, I need a guy in Washington. Yeah, we do Washington, this and that. Don't worry about it. I go, okay. Now, can you be on site on Thursday? That we have to do this job, that you're available. Let me see. Yes, we're good. Okay, perfect. And we had our sales meeting Monday morning at work, and I look at my team and I go, I'm getting into my car and I'm driving. My wife, I turn around, I come home, I go up to Washington. She goes, Washington? I go, yeah, and I'm taking your car. My car, and you go, when are you coming back? I go, I have no idea. I have no idea when I'm coming back, but I got to go there. She goes, to do what? I go, I don't know. If nobody shows up, I don't know what, I'm going to rent a truck. Got to figure it out. I didn't even have an account with this client. And I went and I did everything in this. They were more blown away about the whole thing. Was the big story was this guy drove from Montreal to Washington. I can't get my guy in Washington to come to an appointment, and this guy
In Washington.
in Washington, and you drove from there, and head office got it. This guy drove there. He goes, we can't get service from our existing thing, and that person can't take care of deficiency, and he drove there, and life changed after that.
And you're the CEO of the company.
And I'm the CEO, and I go,
Yeah.
this was the owner. So my thing became now, the spin on it is saying, okay, then I'm working in the States with these guys, different places. They trust me. They know I'll do it. And I go, look, I will go to any location in the U.S. market and be there, physically be there, either with my team or the team that I assigned to supervise your work. So they go, I'm not a person that's employed by the company. I own the company. I'm not going anywhere. The company's been here. And they're like, they love it.
It's funny. Your story is like emblematic of an expression about entrepreneurship in general that I absolutely love, which is like it's basically jumping off a cliff and building a plane on the way down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's basically it, right? It's like you took a chance, you figured it out, and you made it happen, right? And the plane took off, right? So that's amazing.
And you got to adjust, you know?
Yeah, right?
On your way down, too.
Way down.
The number one skill of all entrepreneurs, I think, you always get, I'm sure you always get to ask is, what does it take to be a good entrepreneur? The ability to pivot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is number one, above all else. Above all else.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated by your business because you're in a business. The snack food business is a multi-billion-dollar business, right? No, but you think of all of the people that are in your space, because if I'm in a grocery store, my choices are popcorn and all the selection of popcorn, but then there's all the other snack items that somebody,
The thing
somebody takes, right?
And what's a budget, and like people, how much disposable income do you have?
The differential between like our product budget and every other company there is billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So that's why when you go to the average store, you don't see a lot of local folks there, right? Unless you're going to like a country market or something. But if you're going to like the major chains, it's like Lay's, Orville Redenbacher, and then like us.
And they're paying for the real estate.
And they're paying for that.
Yeah, they're paying for the real estate.
Not only that, sometimes they'll actually pay the stores for you specifically not to be there.
Correct.
Per store.
Really?
So the store has a chance now. They're like, hey, we can make a lot of money with this company not even here. That's great. They'll take that, you know. But then what happens when customers are coming in the store asking for our product? Now the store has to take us.
Right.
So that's why our business, like, you know, our communication to the consumer is important, because that's why we have to be really connected community who goes in and asks for our product. So if they go into the store and it's not there, then they look silly, right? Because like, oh, why is Bad Monkey not there?
So the brand has to speak to them, and the brand they have to believe in the brand so much that you'll have your customers are going to defend your brand.
Yeah, like
so you and your brother, you're great, but you can't be in 25,000.
We had one situation where specifically, just to, if you'll permit one story here, is at one store for whatever reason, maybe they didn't like my face, you know, like you, I go in personally, I go, hey, we have over 100 employees, and I still go to stores face to face and be like, hey, would you like to have our popcorn?
Right.
And one guy's just like, no, I don't have time. He wouldn't even like let me finish the sentence, right? I was like, all right, cool. So then we went on Twitter and we're like, hey guys, we want to be in this store. Let us know maybe if you shop there, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so then like 3 or 4 days later, the guy calls me back and he's like, yeah, bring in your popcorn and tell everyone online to stop emailing me. Yeah, but I didn't tell anybody to do that. But we were able to, like, I don't want to say monetize, but in a way monetize and mobilize our I don't know
Your
followers, but our
followers.
fans or
Yeah.
whatever.
Your
you know?
fans, yeah, exactly.
So that was kind of cool. But like that's why for me, especially the brand, it's like if I lose that, we're dead. Like
Yeah.
we're just
The
it's
building a community is huge.
so important.
Very important, yeah.
But to get to that point, how long have you been doing this?
We're entering our 10th year right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
To get to that point
Yeah.
with a dedicated following to be able to that's
fighting the
that
system.
blows
It's-
my mind. That
Yeah.
blows my mind. It's
For us, and I think I'm sure you guys know too that like it's important in branding, even in brand, to know your demographic. You know, you can't just like machine gun everything, right? So for us, it's like I won't need the details, but like 68% of our clients are between the ages of 28, 38, females with young kids, right? So we like
Beautiful.
quadruple down on that demographic.
Yeah.
Everyone else, it's all, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
but how did you extract that information?
The truth. It upset.
Doesn't have to be. Good story.
It just
I'll believe
a hot
you.
mic.
I'll believe you.
Yeah, hot mic, hot mic.
So I don't know.
My brother and I used to literally, when we first started, almost every day we would go into a grocery store and we had a kind of an instinctive idea of who was our clientele because we used to do festivals, right? So we saw who came to our booths. So when we went into the stores, I said, you know what? I think it's like young moms type of thing, right? So we go into the store and we, with a notepad, like a crazy person, we'd watch every kind of person we thought fit into our demographic, how much time they would spend in the store. So we'd clock it, where they would go in the store. So we understood foot patterns. So I'm like, you know what? They would go into the milk section for 3 minutes. We were super analytical with that.
Excuse me. Is this a true story or is it a made up story?
No, this is absolutely true. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just the two of you?
No, because the thing is that people don't want to hear that I'm like stalking people in stores. You know, I could say I hired a firm, but no, it was just me and my brother.
Wow.
But so we did this for I don't even know what, maybe 3 or 4 months, and then we were like, you know what? After like 400 or 500 people watching, we're like, we got it. This is who we need to focus on. So then from that moment on, we just hyper focused on them, and everyone else is like, I'm not going to cater to someone even my age and my
Right.
demographic. Like I'm not the one buying the product. It's the young moms, so we just focus on them.
Amazing.
The level of dedication it takes
yeah.
to get
Yeah.
to
Oh
the
my
next
God. Just
level.
obsessive. Just obsessive about it.
Yes.
About it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If
That's
you're
when you
passionate
see,
about
but
it.
that's when you're passionate about
Yeah.
something. And
If
if
you're
you're
passionate
passionate about it,
Yeah.
you'll do anything for it.
And like well for yourself, right? Like you're passionate about your business. You're passionate about making sure that your customers know that you're reliable and that you're willing to take the extra step. So you did what you did because of that, right? And so I think
Yeah.
that if we're making a recipe, right, for a good brand, it's like dedication, pivoting, passion. These are all things that you need to put in that recipe for the cake to grow.
A lot of people would have packed up after that first festival where clients were or potential clients were spitting out your popcorn. And
Not
you
just-
guys
yeah.
you guys turned around and said, "No, okay, well wait a minute. Maybe they're onto something and we need to fix the flavor."
Yeah, it was
Or change our customers.
Change.
well, to be honest with you, our first festival was Grand Prix, so everybody was either like drunk or not paying attention. So it was like,
That wasn't easier to sell.
yeah.
Based on the notes taken.
Yeah. After that day, I went home. I was like, did I just make a
No
horrible-
analytics at the Grand Prix.
I was about to call my boss and ask for my job back, honestly. Like,
That's an interesting too.
Yeah.
When you go out on your own.
Yeah.
And when you're in the grind and
Yeah.
like things aren't going that well, going, wow, I wonder if I can get my job back. I've said that a number of times.
it's a weird thing, right? But then it's like
It's like a comfort of going back to a paycheck.
it is comfortable, right?
It is.
But it's like
At some points.
if you don't have that like that Viking-esque like burn the boats philosophy,
Yeah.
I don't know if you could really succeed. I think you'll reach a certain level of success, right? But like a part-time entrepreneur, I don't know if that's real. Like to me, that's a hobby or like
Right.
maybe a side hustle where you make an extra change. But if you really want to have a successful business, you have to be all in. You can't have plan B, C, D. And
Right.
I don't know about you. That's how I feel.
You have
Oh,
to
no, I
believe
agree
in yourself.
100%.
I think you have to believe in yourself first, and then you have to believe in what you're doing. And many of the entrepreneurs that I've been interviewing on these reels, it's always the same thing. I ask them, "What's your advice for young entrepreneurs?" And they're always saying pretty much the same thing. Pretty much the same thing. Like, be passionate about what you're doing, believe in what you're doing, perseverance. It's kind of those 3-4 words are always the words.
I remember reading many years ago about this, and it was like, if you're passionate about it, if you go in about thinking about profit and making money and this and that, they will, your client, whoever you're trying to convince to go with you, will know that it's money first, and then you don't care about the. But you go in and you're passionate about it, and you go, I'm doing this, even, you know, if I won a lottery tomorrow, I'd still be back here in the morning, still doing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
or and worrying more about you got to be happy with getting the service. And we don't even bill afterwards. We don't
Yeah.
even if you're happy, I should get paid.
Yeah.
If you're not happy, I'm not going to get paid.
Yeah.
But that's our philosophy going in. That our goal is as long as the client's happy, everything should be good, and that's our job.
That's brilliant.
I'm not manufacturing anything.
No,
It's
for sure.
Our product is Nulook, is us.
Yeah. If you'll permit me to ask a question.
Sure, go
I
ahead.
don't want to be the host here, but branding is interesting because, like you said, believe in yourself, right? You need to believe in what you're doing, your mission statement, all that stuff, right? But then you also need feedback from others. Like for myself, people are like, I don't like this flavor. I got to change a bit. I got to do things differently. So it's tough because what do you tell someone who wants to start a business who's like, do I listen to myself? Do I listen to my mom, my friends, my wife who has their opinion? Like, how does that counterbalance? I don't know if that makes any sense. My question
In
but-
starting the business or with a product that they're being critical.
But I think when
about,
you're
or
building a brand, I think that it's like you said, right? It's like you need to go with what you feel is true, but you need to also listen to exterior forces, right? So it's like, what's that balance? I mean, it's a
you could drive yourself
Right.
You can, like a customer, you do have something. Everybody's got an opinion in this, and there's
Right.
there's only so much you can actually take in because eventually, at some point, you gotta choose a direction of where
course.
you want it from the information that people are giving you back. And some's good, some's bad, and some has you agree with. But
Yeah.
if you go, you'll never accomplish anything.
That's it.
You'll be
There's a
chasing.
fine line. I think that there's a fine line, So an interesting story. So I deviated a little bit from the videos that I was doing. So on Instagram, we did a video called "We're Italian Montrealers, of course." So and it was that "Of Course" series on Instagram. So that video hit 638,000 views on Instagram alone.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And it's somewhere around just under 300 comments. And at first, I was starting to read the comments. And then I decided I was going to stop reading it.
That's fair. That's a smart
wise.
decision, yeah.
Right?
That's
Because some of the comments were nasty. Some of the comments were, some of them, I think, it was just people projecting and trying to kind of pass their own messages. But, that was just a reminder of there's a fine line in terms of, taking opinions of others, understanding what the market's wanting versus what's out there. The market said, in this particular case, there was 638,000 views and 6,000 or 7,000 shares. So I think the market spoke. 300 comments. Statistically, right? You're an analytics
No, but
guy.
they always say, I don't want to be mean for people leaving comments, but it's never like Michael Jordan leaving comments online. You know what I'm saying? It's never the best and
Michael
brightest.
Jordan will pick up the phone and call you and find you and comment.
That's my point. Is that you're never gonna have the best and brightest leaving comments. So for me too, I will put posts and we get tons of stuff too, and I never read the comments. It's all the top line analytics that you should pay attention to.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right for doing that.
Yeah.
Or have somebody else read them for you. Tell me only the good ones,
Yeah,
the bad ones. Filter it for me.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes some of the bad are constructive. It's
true,
not necessarily, I mean, you
Yeah.
got to balance it out. I mean, we want to live in the good, but
Yeah.
sometimes there could be some good, valid points. A lot of people just want to comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know what? And typically those people are scared to do anything.
That's absolutely
Those
true.
are the ones, like
Yeah.
I've used this example of a car, driving in a car. And you have the steering wheel, so you have the person that knows where we're going. And you have the person next to you, which is a very important person. That's that right-hand person that's giving you ideas, this and that. But, hey, you want to drive? No, I'm good.
Exactly.
I'm good. And then you have the person that sits behind them, behind the passenger on that. And you could see because you look over there.
Yeah.
And they've got some ideas and stuff, but they don't even want to sit in that seat. But they've got some good ideas. The one you got to worry about the most is the one that's sitting behind you that always knows somebody who did. I could have, I should have, I would have. I know successful people and everything, and they've done nothing their whole life.
Yeah.
But to bring to your
And
point,
this is part of the
That's
that person's
that's
probably
absolutely
the
true.
person just writing
absolutely
those
true.
writing those
Yeah.
nasty comments or
Yeah.
this and that, and just they never tried anything.
Yeah.
but that's online though. But like in person, these people would never, stand face to face and say that.
Oh no, they're the ones behind you. They're the ones saying. They're the ones whispering.
Yeah.
and
I
you might
can't
be
see their
pointing
face.
something.
I've
You
never
can't
gotten a
see
bad
them.
comment to my
You
face,
can't- you
ever.
can't
Yeah,
hit them.
not
You
one
can't-
time.
You can't
Never.
do anything with them, but they're behind there. They're that fourth person. in it.
Absolutely. That's a good analogy, actually. I'm going to steal that if you will.
No problem.
I think I was gonna make a point with what you said. Like, who do we ask of advice? Who do we get advice from? I think we cannot when we have a vision. I don't think we should be asking everybody about what do you think, because a lot of people, they've never done it before, just like you mentioned. They've never done it before. So if you go and ask them, of course they're going to be like, I don't think that's a good idea. So it's always best to go seek help from somebody who has done it. I think it's the best way to go.
Yeah.
I can use as an example when we deal with schools, or I dealt with some public schools. No one individual makes a decision. It's got to go to a panel of people. You've experienced that, a panel of people. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of people that are there, and then they're silent. They're silent for a while. And all of a sudden everything's going actually pretty good. And then there's that person that manages to change everybody.
Yeah.
That shows up only at the end.
At the end of the process.
At the end of the process. So you end up with all these people. If you're going to go out, 3 people, that's more than enough. 3 people that you value, that can give you some good things. That's more than that.
That's a very good point.
I find what's interesting, Cathy, is that I'm finding that as I'm building my business, both in Montreal and across Canada, is there are many people in our network that we can, call at any time for advice and whatever it is that we're, sometimes it's financial advice, sometimes it's branding advice, sometimes. And I think that as we grow our networks, you can, kind of talk to some people. I mean, one of my former colleagues saw what we were doing in terms of the reels, and she saw that I was doing that only on Instagram. And she says, "Why aren't you putting it on LinkedIn?" I said, yeah, I'm not sure. She says, "Try it, like right in front of me. Like, I'm not leaving your boardroom until you try it."
It's amazing.
Until you do it. And you know what? That was success. Because I was able to do that.
You tried it on Instagram first before you did.
Tried it on Instagram before I did, because I wasn't sure if LinkedIn was ready for that. And in fact, that LinkedIn was very ready for that.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of reaction.
A lot of reaction. So I think, to go back to the point of the advice, I think that there's people that can help us in the different things, because we wear different hats, right? So as entrepreneurs, we handle multiple all the departments, So
at all levels too. It's like no matter how far your company goes along, I find I'm still doing things that I was doing 9 years ago. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying?
Well, and this is why you're seeing the success, because you're in it, you're involved in it, and you're seeing this. This thing grow, I was going to say this baby grow.
And for new entrepreneurs that are dealing with operations, because they're new, right? There's not enough capital to go around hire agencies, to just do their ads or branding. What would be the counsel for them? Do they focus on operations? Do they have to split their time, do a little bit of branding, putting themselves out there on LinkedIn if they're B2B, B2C? I don't know. Is it more Instagram, or is it still LinkedIn?
I think just generally speaking, I mean, yes, it's super important, but like you were saying before, it's just about small, consistent wins. You don't need to go for these home runs, you know what I mean? I'd rather put out 20 1-minute videos than spend a huge budget hiring a firm. Like for us, for example, we get pitched all the time from marketing companies with their great idea, this and that. It's going to cost $200,000-$300,000, and then we go and hire a local high school student for $400,
exactly,
and they kill it. You know what I'm saying? Where it's no offense to any marketing firms out there, it's just they need to change it up a bit, this. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I think small, consistent wins is important. And yes, I think it's super valuable. Not just because, you have accounting issues to deal with as a,
exactly,
all this other stuff, but you can't just, marketing can't be an afterthought. If it's an afterthought, you'll become an afterthought. So
that's how important it is.
Yeah.
And the thing that people tend to forget, and what we're guilty of, when we're busy, we end up stop doing that.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, when you're looking for work, and you're hungry for work, that's when you start.
Excellent point.
It's opposite of the way it should be.
Excellent point.
That's the consistency and doing it all the time. A little bit, but all the time doing it from there.
And that's
because when I was building my cottage and I was posting, updates and this and that, week numbers so-and-so and this and that, and I had people coming up to me and going, "Oh, you haven't posted? Did you finish the house?" I really enjoyed the progress. It was like this little story. I was doing more for myself just to document. And this little story as it was going, and
that's cool.
And that's exactly the philosophy you need, just little bits, little bits, and continuously.
I think my advice would be along the lines of what was already been said here, which is know your market, know who you're going after, because you're not, they say you can't make everybody happy. You're not selling ice cream, right? You can't get everybody. So you got to figure out who your clients are, and from there, go focus on it. So Zvi said, he was involved with BNI. Actually, in my early days, I started getting involved in BNI as well. I wasn't a founding member, but I was a member of the group. And so that introduced me to some people. And then, now we're doing the video. It evolves, and understanding where your market is rather than, trying to be too much and all over the place.
Yeah, that's really the focus. And like you said, which I like, you understand your demographics, you understand the market that it was. I found when I was at the beginning, when I was starting in cold calling, and I've done sales my whole life, and I turn around and I go, okay, you know what? I'm going to focus on senior residences, for example, with furniture. I'm just calling senior residences. Exactly. And then I had a colleague of mine, and this worked out very positive for us for Nulook. And we had this young girl that came on board. And I forget how we started with schools. And she started cultivating private schools throughout the province of Quebec, little by little, and having growth. And you just saw the progress, as it was advancing more and more, and it became easier because they all kind of needed the same thing. So it was almost, it was a template that just repeated itself, and really one refers to the other. Yeah. And that saved our business actually during COVID. Yeah. That actually totally saved my business. It was the 80-20 rule, where all of a sudden we ended up doing 80% schools and 20% office. There was no office to do.
That's crazy.
Right, during that time, but schools continued. And go figure, that flipped that way. But it was she just kept doing it, had a system, and little by little, all over the place, I'm going, wow.
And now you're probably the go-to guy for schools.
For schools. We're
That's
probably the
right.
largest supplier, private schools.
Sure.
Not public, tenders, private. Right. But it just worked from that. And I remember back in the day when there were call centers. Remember that?
Oh, I do.
It was like, you think, okay, is there a trend in office furniture? Well, there's a trend in businesses that you would see. At one time it was aeronautics. Another time was pharma in Montreal or in the province of Quebec. Another time was call centers. Another time was this. So all of a sudden you see these trends that go, oh, okay, this is a growing market. Look for these type of companies.
To kind of piggyback on what you're saying about, branding and knowing your clientele and things like that, I think one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs don't do, because, we're talking about things that we should, is really put yourself in the position of your client. Yes. That will help you not just with your business, but it's going to help you with your branding strategy.
Would you buy from you?
Yes.
Would you buy from you?
Yeah, and then how picture yourself like, okay, well, what is it like? Okay, so I'm a private school. What are my problems? What are my desires? What do I need? And then that change of perspective really helps. So, for example, for us, my brother and I literally said, okay, you're a 29-year-old mom of 3 kids who are little kids running around the grocery store. Like, how do we optimize the situation for them to grab our bags? So as a quick example, I was like, they're probably grabbing things off shelves. So we negotiated lower shelf positioning on our product.
For the kids to get to it?
All the big guys wanted eye level for the parents. Right. We realized it's not the mom taking the product. It's the children. They're grabbing it and then giving it to their moms.
Beautiful.
So we put it on the just above the bottom shelf.
Cheaper real estate too.
Yeah. They don't care.
They don't care about that.
They don't care about that at all.
Fighting for the bottom shelf.
That's exactly it. So that's just a small example, but that was where we stepped into their shoes and understood their perspective. Them being the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And some people, they don't even know what their clients would want. In that case, you just call them and speak with some of them.
Ask questions. Hey, what are your problems? How can I help you solve this?
But if you weren't following people in the stores, you would have never noticed that.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. But let's say I was in your business, let's say, for example, I would actually walk into a private school or talk to them and ask questions. I think by being curious, you solve problems. You know what I'm saying? So you're right. It's not exactly the same, but the ethos is the same.
Want to add anything on that? Or we can move about on mindset, because a lot of people, they're a bit afraid. Insecurities. Am I good? Am I going to be good on video? What am I going to say? What are people going to say? What's your advice? You do a lot of videos. What would you say?
Just do it.
You've been doing videos for a long time.
Well, you know what? There was a beginning, right? There was a time when I started. And even the first video in these Reel series, it was, a lot of takes and a lot of practicing. And also, one rule I gave myself is I actually don't really watch any of the editing part of it. The video is made and it's posted. And so we just roll with it. Whether I'm happy or not happy, it doesn't matter. It's out there and it's done. And some people will say, yeah, but don't you want to have a creative authorship on it? And I'm like, look, I have a person that's doing this. They're helping me. They know better than I in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And we're going to go with it. And there's going to be mistakes, and we've made mistakes. But in general, you just gotta keep going, because or else you're never going to start. I think you said the analysis by paralysis. If you start figuring, oh my God, I don't have the right hair, or I don't have the right weight, or I don't have the right shirt on, or
analyze, paralyze.
Yeah.
It's corny, but it's so true. It's crazy. We're humans. We whether you like to admit it or not, you care what people think about you. Everybody does, right? But it's like in entrepreneurship, you have to kind of expose yourself to the world, really, right? That's what it's about. And it's a hard thing to do for a lot of people. That's why they prefer to be in the back seat or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Because it's less scary, right? You could dodge those bullets coming at you.
Somebody I knew that she got involved in real estate, in residential real estate. And one of her trainers or her mentor, I think it was, I thought it was strange because she had this large mirror in her office. And I'm going, her name was Joanna Amendola.
Oh, yeah.
Joanna Amendola. She had this large mirror in her office. And I'm going, why do you have such a mirror in her office? So she goes, my mentor told me, she goes, I should be looking at myself and my body language as I'm speaking to somebody on the phone. And it was the first time I saw it. I go, oh, that's interesting from that, because you never really, you know, when you're speaking, how you're doing it. You see the film afterwards, but when you're doing, how's your body language, what's your posture, and everything else. So she goes, that's why the mirror was there. So
that's smart.
You know, something of getting over the fear of part of the thing. How do we look? How do we do this? Maybe use a mirror.
But there is something to the Nike slogan, right? That's why it's just do it. It's literally that's what it is.
Yeah, don't think about it. Just do it. Just do it.
Because it's when you think about it too much that you're going to overthink it. And look, I always say to myself, content is needed. All of these platforms, including the traditional platforms, content is needed. You might as well go and tell your story if you have a story to tell, and if you're passionate about your business. If you're passionate about your business, the story is going to come naturally. And so I think that would be the advice to young entrepreneurs or people that are thinking about personal branding and getting into branding. You just go for it.
Just
Someone
do
said
it.
that storytelling, that people like, short story or a good story of how somebody started, what made you get into it, and, don't hide behind it. And I go, I was happy to say, hey, I started from a bedroom in my house. Yeah. I expanded to my garage.
Yeah.
That was my first expansion, moved into my garage.
Since the dawn of time, we've been sitting around fires telling each other stories. That's all this is.
Yeah. That's a good story. Exactly. A good storyteller, tell a good story. They like it. They'll remember it.
Course.
And don't be scared to do it.
Great. So that brings us to an end. I don't know if do you have a last message you want to impart to the audience?
I want to thank you guys for this opportunity.
Yeah, I think it was really nice.
Thank you.
We covered a lot of subjects that I think that are important to a lot of people out there.
For sure.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having us here. It's always a pleasure, and and just tell the listeners, just go out and do it.
Burn the boat and go out and do it.
Burn the boats, yeah.
Don't burn actual boats, guys. It's a legal disclaimer.
The former lawyer.
All right, guys, it was nice to have you on the show, and until next time.
Thank you.
All right.